Okay. Well, today's topic is we're gonna piggyback off of yesterday. If you didn't make yesterday's intensive retreat, we talked about how to transform intense emotions. We're focusing on that, and it was quite a good session. It's up on our YouTube site now, thanks to Jared. And the poem from yesterday, which is called Harnessing the Energies of Love, will be out in tomorrow's mailing. So you can sort of catch up with that there. But we're going to piggyback off that. This is an icon here of St. John of the Cross, staying with Spain here, Santiago, and here's St. John. And it's quite an interesting icon. Yeah, we'll sort of refer to it, but I want at least the people who are tuning this in later on tape to be able to see this image, because John of the Cross is one of the classic Christian mystics, and his Dark Night of the Soul is all about the journey of transformation, the inner Camino, as I would call it, because I doubt if any of you were here either live today or listening later that are not interested, even if it's subconsciously interested in this whole journey of transformation. What do we really long for? We try a lot of other things, and they just don't quite make it. And then somehow you're looking for this thing that can only be found in the world of transformation. Now, just to set the stage a little bit, to let you know where we're going, I've got a poem for you today that'll take us right into it. But we're working today with that age-old idea of the Philosopher's Stone. That was Van Morrison singing a poem called The Philosopher's Stone. And literally, it started in the Middle East. It was the beginning of chemistry. Started with the Islamic folks. They were the first chemists. They were the first doctors, really. We got all this stuff later through Greece from our Muslim brothers and sisters. But the alchemists were the ones who literally, I mean, this is in a literal sense, they were trying to turn lead into gold. They were looking for this way to transform something that was, well, in a less polite conversation, to turn shit into gold. And so, and it is too, because compost is that, and compost can grow things. So literally, they were trying to do this thing with the metals, and so they had what were called crucibles, which were these containers that could take a lot of heat. And then they put various things in there. They're looking for the Philosopher's Stone was this element that could transform lead into gold, but in our sense could transform suffering into happiness, could transform meaninglessness, purposelessness into a sense of meaning, transform a divided human being into a human being who felt whole. So this is the topic. Now, John of the Cross is one of the masters in the Christian mystics. All mystics are interested in this process of transformation, all of them. Now, when we're talking about that, we're edging into the third operating system. Part of it is trying to kick on, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Again, the first operating system is about survival, runs on instinct. It's strictly a survival operating system we had as a child, in our childhoods and our infanthood, and which was great. Then as we grew and developed, we could have a strategic operating system, runs on intellect, and it's a master of transactional relationships, transactions between time and space. And that's fine. That's fine. You can change things in time and space, but it's more transactional. And then when you get to the sacred operating system of the heart, you see in the icon there uh, of St. John, uh, the flame at the top of his head and the flames at the heat at his heart level. Okay. Uh, the sacred operating system is interested in transformation. So it's survival, transaction, transformation. And you wouldn't be here, even if not conscious, there's something close to consciousness that says you're looking for something other than transactional living, which is fine on one level. I mean, that's what we all do. You go and pay $2 and get a head of lettuce or whatever. That's just normal life, and that's fine. But if everything is transactional, uh, you could get the war in Ukraine. Understand the mind of Putin. It's a transaction, and when the profits or the losses outweigh the profits in that transaction, he's going to be pulling out. You see, and we all, in a way, work on that level. But if that's all you have, that's sort of thin. The soul can't exist. The mind can, but the heart and soul is looking for transformation. So, well, we'll move John off here for a minute. Go back to just our view here. Okay, now today's poem is called The Crucible. Again, the crucible is this vessel that can hold items in enough heat and have high heat to transform them. And I don't think we have anybody here who's coming next week. Maybe we do, but anybody who's ever been through an intensive, even yesterday, where we sat 4 times and then considered something deep. That there was a bit of heat there. That's what intensive's all about. The people who are going to show up tomorrow, from tomorrow till next Saturday. When you sit 6 times a day, you're turning up the heat, and something happens. When you walk 15 kilometers a day for 44 days, that's some heat. Your feet feel it. Your whole body feels it. So it's intense, okay? And that's all right. That's what it takes for transformation. Every once in a while, you got to turn up the heat a little bit. And some of you here have made a session. Some of you, I think Cole may be here. He made the winter session with Julie, who just finished the walk. But some of you have done this kind of intense sitting in the Crucible. So here's the poem. It's called The Crucible. And in a way, this poem started in 1980 when I first took 25 crazy cowboys from the high school I was teaching in Houston. And Vivian should be smiling now because she taught some of these guys. She knows how crazy some of these cowboys were. Took them to the Trappist monastery down the road here to Gethsemane to be in an incredible kind of heat, because we were in silence for a week for high school kids. It was quite an experiment. And when we walked up to the guest house at that time, now this piece of limestone carving is over the entrance to the monastic garden. But at that time, it was over the guest house entrance. And it just said 2 words: God alone. These kids were leaving everything behind. They were leaving their music behind. They were leaving all their media behind. They're even leaving words behind. It was quite a fire to go into, and it changed some of these kids forever. Certainly changed me. And so seeing that sign was the start of this poem, because I didn't know what I was going into either myself. God alone. That's the Trappist motto. And what God means, what God meant to me then is not what God means to me now. But anyway, here's the poem. It's called The Crucible. And I'll read it to you a couple of times because it's short, and then we'll just unpack it a little bit. We'll open it up a little bit, then we'll sit with it. Usual. To rest in God alone is to rest in your sensational body, is to rest in whatever waves of experience arise, display, and disappear, is to rest in the heart of pure awareness, is to rest in the crucible of the living flame of love. To rest in God alone is to rest in your sensational body, is to rest in whatever waves of experience arise, display, and disappear, is to rest in the heart of pure awareness, is to rest in the crucible of the living flame of love. The last line is reference to John of the Cross, when he was treated awfully by his own Carmelite order. He was trying to turn up the heat and say, "What are we doing here? You know, we're just hanging around." It said, we've got to really, go for it. You know, we're here to have a relationship with God, and they didn't like that, so they locked him up in what essentially was an outhouse for months. And in the outhouse, he wrote this, which is one of the ecstatic bits of mystic poetry. He wrote "The Living Flame of Love," which, if you ever wanted to get a taste of what it was like to be a great Christian mystic, you could read this. It's a long poem, but he's writing about that's what kept him alive. He was in touch with the living flame of love. They eventually let him out. But and he wasn't bitter to anybody, because he was in that crucible. Yeah, so that's that. But let's go back to the beginning. To rest in God alone. That's the classic Christian mystic view of what contemplation is what we're going to do, in a few minutes. That's how Christian mystic would look at it. And when you sit in contemplation, you're resting in God alone. So that's why we lay aside thoughts. All that gets laid aside. We're just resting. Augustine was one of the great doctors of the church. He was a total rake in his early life, whoring, drinking, and all that. But he sort of was transformed along the way. And he said, your heart will be restless until it rests in God. What are we all longing for? That's a Christian mystic's view of what we're all longing for. We're longing for God. Whatever, and again, whatever you think that G word means, we're longing for something that we haven't been able to find. And he said, that's what contemplation is. You could say yesterday we were talking about resting in your sensational body. Now, some of you might have a hard time thinking that your body is sensational, but I don't mean a 10 on the, on Donald Trump's scale. I mean that your body is filled with sensations. Just be in your body for a moment. It's amazing. There's a wisdom in the body. And just you could look at it that way. If the G word's a problem, you're just resting in this body of sensation that's so wise. You don't have to think about your heart beating; it beats. You don't have to think about breathing; you breathe. Okay, so if the G word is a stumbling block for you now, you can still transform. I spent 10, 15 years working with Reggie Ray, who was all about just embodied practice, to just be in your body. We have the words body of Christ, body of Christ, body of Christ, but how embodied are we? Yeah. So if you could just rest in your sensational body when we hit the bell in a moment, and just we practiced doing that yesterday, just resting in the sensation. Fine option. You could rest in whatever waves of experience arise, display, and then disappear. You always are doing that anyway. You don't have to manage them. You're giving up managing them. You're giving up stopping them. You're getting up holding on to them. It's all the same. It's all the same process. And so, of course, thoughts arise. Of course, emotions arise and display for a while. If you just at rest there, you're not trying to do anything with them. I mean, if you're not attached, you don't have to drop them. See, interesting. Or you could just, this would be a pure Buddhist take on things, or you could just rest in the heart of pure awareness. You are just aware. That's what they, Ken Wilber would call the witness. You're just resting in the heart of pure awareness. That's different than thinking. Totally different than thinking. Thinking is work. This is a total vacation if you look at it the right way. To rest in the heart of pure awareness. The heart, I mean, the whole book poems I put down there, the title is Cave of the Heart. Heart doesn't, heart in all mystic tradition means your deepest self. We have many selves, layers of self. And to rest, it's what in centering prayer is called the center, you see. So just to rest in the heart of pure awareness. And then finally, to rest in the crucible, a living flame of love. Love is, from a Christian point of view, love, the universe is love. And it has a power, it has energy. And if you just rest in the crucible is, it's a holder. So we're just resting the crucible of the living flame of love. Just let the universe heat everything up and transform it. It's all rest. If you're working, if you're trying to manipulate something in however form, whatever form of meditation, sitting meditation you're doing, you're working at cross purposes with transformation. It's transaction going on. Whenever you're trying to manipulate anything, you're automatically on the transactional level, you see. So this sense of rest doesn't mean go to sleep, which does happen, but it just really means you're stopping trying to manipulate the universe for 20 minutes. Gee, can we do that? I think we can. Okay. So, all right. Well, that's enough of an encouragement. So we'll shift to meditation mode now.